بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. As we continue in this tremendous treatise by the great Imam Abu al-Abbas Taqiyuddin Ahmad ibn Abdul Halim ibn Abdul Salam ibn Taymiyyah al-Harrani al-Dimishqi, the one who died 728 after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And the time now 7:48 p.m. 7:48 p.m. on this night, technically Monday, according to the Islamic date, was the 17th of Jumada al-Thani or al-Akhirah, the year 1447 after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, which agrees with the Gregorian date, which is December the 7th, 2025. And we mentioned that, like we said, the day is still Sunday according to the non-Muslim date. As we continue, we will mention the matters pertaining to what Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah was breaking down, and actually there was applying the categories that we were speaking about and stressing its importance in the previous classes. And we were mentioning the affairs pertaining to how he classified those categories of haqiqah, diniyah, and kawniyah. We also spoke about the affairs pertaining to the different wordings. For example, irada, kawniyah and diniyah. Then we have idhin, kawni and qadari, or kawni and dini. Then you have another word, as we'll talk about today, which is an amr. So all these words, everyone, are all the same as far as its usage and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows to happen in this existence of good and evil, which is connected with the word kawni, qadari, as we mentioned. So all those matters and all those different words we mentioned from last class, whether it be haqiqah, we talked about that already, and irada, we talked about that already. We gave examples. The examples that Shaykh al-Islam had used in the Quran as evidence substantiating these categories. For example, irada al-kawniyah, we talked about it already. For example, if you look at the ayah in Surah Al-An'am, we already covered this, so we're not going to mention it again. But just to give an example, for where he says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَمَن يُرِدِ اللَّهُ فَمَن يُرِد means irada. Whoever Allah intends, or what He wants, or whoever Allah wants to guide, He opens his heart to Islam. وَمَن يُرِد أَن يُضِلَّ, and whoever who He wants or intends to misguide. So notice the verb that was used, وَمَن يُرِد, min arada yuridu. The masdar, or the verbal noun for that, is irada, from the verb arada yuridu iradatan. So what Allah intends and what He wants. Notice in the ayah Surah Al-An'am, the word that was used here was irada. So we talked about in the previous classes haqiqah, diniyah, and shara'i, haqiqah, kawniyah, and haqiqah wa diniyah. We talked about that already. Then there's another word that was used, such as irada, kawniyah, and diniyah. So we talked about that already. So let's keep going. Let's move to the next line. Then you'll find that he used another type of wording. which is, for example, everyone, what does it say? I dropped the tongue. Can you hand me that to me, please? I'm sorry. Shukran. Then he used the word amr. Amr, the word command. So keep in mind the words we just used. We use, for example, haqiqah. Then we use the word irada. Then we use the word idn. We also covered that. Permission. Also breaks down to those two categories, which is kawni and shar'i. Now we move on to the next type of word that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses in the same way, which is amr. You have amr kawni and you have amr what? Dini or shar'i. You can call them both. Dini, shar'i. طيب. If you look, what he uses is Surah Yasin. If you look, everyone, Surah Yasin, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا قَوْلُنَا لِشَيْءٍ إِذَا أَرَدْنَاهُ أَن نَقُولَ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونُ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in his book the word amr. As a matter of fact, I think he actually classified this wrong. That was supposed to go up. Excuse me, everyone. Let's skip to that. I don't know why they mentioned that in the book like that. Maybe the nusakh, the one who copied it, used it in the ayah wrong. What I meant to say, if you look to the next ayah, is Surah Al-Qamar and Yunus. Within the book, it might be a typo, and I think they wanted to classify it for what came before, and I don't know why they put it under. I have no idea. So it must be some type of mistake within the book, because they weren't supposed to use the word, that particular ayah for that. But anyway, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, the Surah Al-Qamar, if you look, and I don't know what page is in the translated version. What page is it? 269. So the copy you have, which copy is that you using? That's the hardback, or is that the softback? Oh, it's a hardback. So which page is in yours? 289 of yours. And yours is 269. Okay. So look to that ayah in Surah Al-Qamar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَمَا أَمْرُنَا إِلَّا وَاحِدَةٌ كَلَمْحٍ بِالْبَصَرِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and our command is not except one, like the blink of an eye. So notice Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was speaking about, again, what, everyone? Speaking about command, or the usage of the word. And if you look in the verse, if you look at and concentrate in the verse, what do you find? In the beginning of the verse, it's the word what? Amr. وَمَا أَمْرُنَا. وَمَا أَمْرُنَا. That our command is not except one, like the blink of an eye. This verse is speaking about which category? Kawni or shar'i, or kawni or dini? Which one, everyone? Kawni. Kawni. Good. It said our command is not except one, like the blink of an eye. Meaning, of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create, or what Allah wants to carry out. And the meaning of this verse here is the day of resurrection. For example, qiyam as-sa'ah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala amar Allah bi qiyam as-sa'ah bi lahdhatin kalamhi al-basar. Or kalamhin bil-basar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He wants the day of resurrection to be established, that is based upon what He commands within this existence. So that affair is what? Kawni, qadri. That's the first category. That can be in one moment, like the blink of an eye. And we know that that's extremely fast. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He wants an affair, that affair could go forth quickly. And in general, if Allah commands, so keep in mind, we're using the word here in this context, amr, command, which is in this existence. That if Allah commands the existence of something or the creation of something, it is nothing but except a blink of an eye if Allah commands that affair to go forth or exist or create. So Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah is using the word command in this context of affairs that take place within this existence, and the usage of the word amr in this context for the same affair. So keep in mind all the words we use, which are the same way in those two categories. Number one, again, haqiqah. Number two, for example, irada. Number three, idhin. And here we're using the word amr. We're using the word here, what? Amr. Type. So let's keep going. So Shaykh al-Islam continues to say, وَالْأَمَّ الْأَمْرُ الدِّينِ. As for the command, or the religious command. Second category, he says, فَقَالَ تَعَالَى إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ وَإِيتَاءِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ وَالْبَغْيِ يَعِظُكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. Notice in the ayah, Surah An-Nahl, ayat number what? 90. You see it, everyone? It says, indeed, Allah commands. Command. So the word amr is used again here. The verbal form. The verbal form here is used contextually here. Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli. So ya'mur, command, with justice and perfection. And we talked about the hidden meaning, or not hidden meaning rather, but what Ahl Ilm say, why did Allah mention this in this way, with this pattern? There's a reason. We'll talk about it in a minute, because we mentioned that last class, but no problem that we'll mention it quickly again. But at any rate, follow the pattern of the verse. Indeed, Allah commands justice and ihsan, and giving to dhil qurba, meaning the closest of kin, or closest of kinship. And he prohibits fahsha. He prohibits abominable acts of statements or actions, and evil and injustice. He exhorts you in order that you take heed. To the end of the verse. What we are mentioning here, everyone, is what? Again, he said, here in this particular ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding that a person carries out what? He commands to carry out justice. Everyone sees it? Good. So, the word amr, all these affairs, if you notice in the verse, if you contemplate on it, what do you notice? These are all affairs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. They're all affairs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. It has nothing to do with connected of evil. And when he commands here in all these matters, those are affairs that's connected with the religion and what he legislated. We said on so many occasions that these two categories, that anything connected with the religion and what Allah commands in it, is everything that Allah, everyone, loves. So if you contemplate on the verse again, it says, indeed, Allah commands justice, perfection, giving the closest of kinship. And he forbids rather, al-fahsha, abominable acts of statements and actions. So Allah forbidding that is still what he loves. And evil and injustice. So forbidding all those matters are affairs, again, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. Right, everyone? So in that instance, al-adl, Allah commands of justice and being just in everything. In weighing out the scales and everything, for example, in sales, no matter what it is, or in affairs that take place in general amongst the creation. Despite of what personal affairs or personal feelings or any type of matter that is connected with someone harming you or committing something against you, or having a hatred, or what have you, no matter what it is. But you still, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands that justice still be carried out regardless. And those are affairs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, regardless. That the matters of a person fighting their hawa, fighting their desires, is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, and struggling in his cause in order to establish the truth, and regardless of what someone has committed against you of evil, that you reciprocate that with what Allah loves. And putting over what Allah loves over what is of sort of personal self-gratification for yourself, which is something that's hard upon a human being, especially if it's been done to you so many times. It's very hard, it becomes very extremely difficult. You do want to do something. So those matters, it becomes even more what? It becomes more of a greater test. And at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still commands that you reciprocate that affair with being what, everyone? Being just. So those type of affairs, again, is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. And that the matter that's connected with the word again, amr. Amr. So that's what we're speaking about. And what type of command is it here in this context again? Is it kawni or is it dini? Which one? It's dini, shar'i. Dini, shar'i. Excuse me. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded justice and prohibiting, like we mentioned, injustice. And al-qisas. And those prescribed punishments from the ruler of the country, of course. Also is considered justice. The prescribed punishment, all those matters fall under the word adl. The word adl. It's a reason, or something I'm going with this. I mentioned this last class, just to remind everyone. I'm going somewhere with this, just focus for a second. If someone transgresses the bounds, they hurt someone, or they might have killed someone, or stole, or what have you, any type of form of great injustice, or great form of corruption within society, the prescribed punishment for that is justice. Someone that carries out an evil, someone that carries out a great form of transgression, whether it be against you, your family, or what have you, or your community, your society, wreaking havoc in it and disturbing the peace. All those matters are great. What comes as a result of that is what, everyone? A prescribed punishment that Allah prescribed for the ruler or the leader of the land to carry out against that individual. That is called qisas. So what you receive of that punishment due to that injustice you commit or that type of corruption or crime, as a result, what is reciprocated is that punishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed. And punishments are justice from Allah. They're considered what? Adl. قصاص في الجراحات والأطراف والقصاص في الكلام أيضا كل هذا من العدل. For now, like we mentioned, the prescribed punishments, like we said, for the ruler, in wounds or harms or mutilation that someone might cut off, whatever type of crime it is, or prescribed punishments in speech, because you can't say what you want either. You cannot say what you want within the earth. Everything has some form of accountability, either in this world and in the hereafter with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you cannot act in accordance with your desires to carry out injustice or commit crimes within society, except that you know and you realize within your mind that there's a what? There's a prescribed punishment for those great acts that you commit, or those great atrocities that emanates from you within society. So, however, notice Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands justice. And then he follows it up again, which is a benefit of ihsan. So in the ayah, Allah mentions adl, which is excellent. But then Allah, after the word adl, he mentions something greater than adl. The thing that Allah mentions after the word adl is ihsan, which is a level higher than justice. Because despite the fact that you've been committed wrong against, or excuse me, someone committed a wrong against you, or against yourself, against your family, against your children, or whoever it is, or someone dear to you, someone that's close to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions something greater than adl. So for you to carry out that justice, you're not wrong. So don't think that if you do Now, attend to carry out the rights in which one wants to attain because of some form of injustice that was committed against him or her, that they're wrong. Justice is justice. So it would not be any type of form of what? Injustice here at all, because it's a repayment for what someone did, which is similar on the day of resurrection. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishing who He punishes is absolute justice. However, after what comes after adl is something greater than adl, which is ihsan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the ayah mentions ihsan, which is another word for fadl, which is something extra of your bounty, or something extra where you pardon and overlook and forgive. Where Allah has mentioned in this verse that that's something that is greater than actual what? Justice. So al-adl is al-intisaf min al-zalim bimithli dhulmihi fayuqtassu min al-qatil. That's clear. We just mentioned that. So in that instance, Allah mentioned that, but however, He follows it up with another word, which is ihsan, which is فَمَنْ عَفَى وَأَصْلَحْ فَأَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Whoever overlooks and they forgive, pardon, then their reward is with Allah. So, just to sum it up of this benefit, so we can continue in the book, 2 words, or rather 4, we could say. Al-qisas adl, wal-afu fadl. That's it. Al-qisasu adlun, wal-afu fadlun. Prescribed punishment is justice. Pardoning and overlooking is a bounty. Then that's a level what? Higher. So the reward for a person that does that is what? Greater. Even though they did not do anything wrong in the first category. So no one can say that they was transgressed against, that to carry it out within the courts and the proper methods or channels for it to be dealt with properly, that they did something wrong. They didn't. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still commands within His book that if you want to increase your reward with Allah, then He legislated something higher than that, which takes a lot for a human being, because that's another form of a what, everyone? Test. And like we mentioned, all of us being in this world, we're all being tested. And Allah gives us great tests, and based upon those great tests, one attains a greater reward. And no doubt, those affairs are very hard. Very, very hard, especially if the test is pertaining to yourself or someone in your family or someone from your children or someone dear to you. Being mistreated, being attacked, being hurt, those things really affect you. So now to take a level in order to overlook that person that oppressed them takes a lot out of you. Takes a lot. Takes a major person of high level. Don't forget about the wire. I was going to say. No. Hold on. You sure? I think it was that one too, if I'm not mistaken. Is it that one, the one that's tied? I'm sure. I'm sorry. Every time I see that wire, I'm like, you have to get on. I don't get that new wire. Pardon me. So in that instance, when a person is being tested in those affairs, or being oppressed, or being hurt, or injustice is being committed against a person, or their family, or their children, or their loved ones, or someone who they highly respect, and they're being attacked, or they're being hurt, it takes a lot to what? Overlook and pardon that person. It takes a person of what? High iman, on a high level, to overlook and pardon. That's the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned adl, and then He mentioned a level higher, which is what? Ihsan. So these ayats and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala arranged them is perfect. If one was to ponder on the Quran and why they're arranged in a manner of how they were arranged, and in affairs that are very tedious. If you look at the verse, then Allah mentions pardoning and overlooking, and then the affairs that are the greatest form of injustice. If you look in the ayah, what does it say? And giving to those who are close in kinship. Ita'id al-qurba. So family matters and all those affairs connected with it are very what? They're very strong. They're very strong in which one, if they want those great rewards, then he focuses on those affairs first, which is connected with the families. The internal affairs connected with immediate kinship. In immediate what? Family. Giving to dhil qurba, the possessor of kinship. And prohibiting those abominable acts, of course, his statements and actions to the end of it. So the affairs pertaining to, for example, ihsan ita'i dhil qurba. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned everything that's connected with your family, immediately, or your immediate family, from the rahim, from the qarabat rahim, meaning your family kinship, from the aspect of the direction of the father or the mother, or anyone, of course, that has that right upon you. So those verses, just a little benefit in those matters, just to give a little bit more benefits, we extrapolate from it in order for everyone to see that in the Quran, Allah arranged it perfectly for a reason. But generally, if you understand the part where we were talking about the word command, and that is connected with the affairs of the religion, you understood the affair. And that's it. But that was just a side benefit we wanted to mention. Let's keep going. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Shaykh al-Islam mentions Surah An-Nisa. Let's go everyone. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تُؤَدُّوا الْأَمَانَاتِ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهَا وَإِذَا حَكَمْتُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ أَن تَحْكُمُوا بِالْعَدْلِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ نِعِمَّ مَا يَعِظُكُمْ بِهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ سَمِيعًا بَصِيرًا. Allah mentions in Surah An-Nisa, Ayah 58, Ayah 58. Allah mentions, indeed Allah commands you to carry out your trust to its people. And if you judge between the people, to judge between them with justice. To the end of the ayah, which is the Surah An-Nisa. Which category of Amr is this, everyone? This is easy. Which one? Shar'i Dini. Good. Shar'i Dini. Excellent. Good. The word is where Inna Allah Ya'murukum. And verily, indeed, Allah, what does it say? Ya'murukum. Amr. You hear it? Ya'murukum. From the word Amr. Ya'murukum. But here was the verbal, the verb was used here. The verb. The verb Ya'muru. Fi'l al-mudari'. The present verb. In the present tense. And to addul amanati, that you carry out those trusts to its people. Meaning everything you were put in trust of the rights of Allah and our rights of the creation. So anything you were put in trust of the rights of Allah, which is clear, which is of salawat, which is of Ramadan, of staying away from shirk, carrying out the monotheism, Allah being singled out in His worship and all the affairs of worship. And at the same time, the rights of the makhluqeen, of the creation. We mentioned in previous lessons, all of these matters are considered a trust that you have to carry out to its people, in which you were placed in trust over, and not to now, or not to come up short or be incomplete in the carry out of that trust, and not to be treacherous, and not to be perfidious or treacherous in these matters at all. So all of those matters connected with what we mentioned here are affairs that Allah loves. So there's nothing in this ayah except that it's everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever you want, that He loves. That the trust be fulfilled of what type of covenant you were put in trust over, no matter what it is. Whether, like we said, the rights of Allah or the rights of the creation. And to judge between the people with justice. Indeed, Allah exhorts you with it. Indeed, Allah is Sami'an Basira. He's all hearing and He's all seeing. So again, that's Amr, what everyone? Dini. So let's move on. Let's keep going. Now we're moving on to the usage of the word idhin. Idhin. The word idhin. The word permission. The word idhin. فقال في الكون لما ذكر السحر. Let's read what Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, what he says. Let's read it together, everyone. What page is that? It's still, what is it? 290? 279 in the other copy? 270? 270? Okay. So let's move to the word idhin. So the first example Shaykh al-Islam gives is what? Kawni. What they call al-idhnu al-kawni. Al-idhnu al-kawni. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the word sihr. He mentions the word sihr, magic. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the ayah in Surah al-Baqarah, ayah 102. وَمَا هُمْ بِضَارِّينَ بِهِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about magic. If you notice, our Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that magic is real. That sihr is what? Is real. So it's not folklore, fake, or fairy tale. Magic is real. And Allah mentions it in His book that it is real and it can affect and it can harm. It can affect one and it can what? Harm them. It can affect them and it can harm them. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions a very important affair in the ayah here. What does He say? That they cannot what? Harm anyone in the least. And Allah put emphasis on it where it says, وَمَا هُمْ بِضَارِّينَ بِهِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ. Allah didn't mention ahad, He said min ahad. That's the most highest form of emphasis. That magic cannot afflict or harm or have any effect on anyone unless Allah what? Allows it. Unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed it and allowed it. And it happened by, here, let's connect the word, permission. Permission. Notice it says at the end of the ayah, what does it say? They cannot harm anyone except by, what does it say? Permission of Allah. So, what category of permission is that? It's idhnullah wa al-kawni al-qadri. Al-kawni al-qadri. Good. And if you want to say, in other words, it does the permission of Allah here, that magic cannot harm except by His permission, meaning by what Allah wills, and by His qudrah, meaning in regards to the qadr. That's what it's speaking about here. So they cannot harm anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills it for them to harm anyone, unless that harm is by Allah's will or by His determination or decree. By His determination and His what? His decree. Except that affair of sihr, notice if you focus on it, everyone, keep in mind, like we said, that any affair that's connected with the existence and the divine decree, it could either be good or it could be what? It could be evil. And here, magic we know is what? Evil. And that Allah does not what? Allow it. As far as in the religion. But in regards to what Allah allows to happen, those affairs take place by His permission for some wisdom. And at the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows it within His permission of what He allows to happen in this existence, whether it be what? Good or evil. That's only for the what? Which category? Which one? Say it again. Kawni. Exactly, the first category. Kawni qadari. Or you can say, idhnullah al-kawni al-qadri. Idhnullah al-kawni al-qadri. Good. So let's keep going. So Shaykh al-Islam gave the first example of the word idhin here in this context. In Surah al-Baqarah, ayah 102. 102. طيب, let's keep going. وقال في الإذن الديني وفي الإذن الديني. Now he's going to use the word idhin within the religion. He uses the ayah which is a Surah Shura, ayah 21, which says, أَمْ لَهُمْ شُرَكَاءُ شَرَعُوا لَهُمْ مِنَ الدِّينِ مَا لَمْ يَأْذَنْ بِهِ اللَّهُ وقال تعالى يا أيها النبي إنا أرسلناك شاهدا ومبشرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا. Surah al-Ahzab. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these ayat focus on the idhn, which is in the what? The religion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, do they have partners that have legislated for them of the religion? I think that's clear. Which Allah did not give permission for. Meaning Allah did not legislate it. For the permission here, because of the opposite. A person might say, well, it sounds like to me something evil here. It sounds like it, right? But what's the key word here? What he did not give permission for. He did not give permission in the religion. What he did not give permission for is the what? Key word that Allah did not legislate. Even though it might have happened, but the focus of the context here is what Allah did not legislate in the religion. So in that affair here, we're using that example for what's connected clearly with the religion, or what he did not legislate. So to stay away from that affair of what Allah did not legislate is something in actuality Allah loves. To stay away from the affair in which Allah did not legislate in the religion. To stay away from that affair of drawing close to Allah by something he did not legislate, for a person to stay far away from it, in actuality is something Allah loves. Allah loves the fact that you stay away from affairs that you utilize to draw close to Him, that other people do that are sinister and evil. But for you now to stay away from that matter, again, is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He loves. So still connected in that instance. ما لم يشرعه الله فالإذن يكون شرعيا. However, in the instance, if you want to say in matters of what Allah will allow, we can also say the word, what is included in it, both. For you will find that what is practice of the people, what is mentioned here, condemned, is saying here, do they have partners? That's legislated. So could we possibly say here that both categories are used, or one? What would you say? What would you say, Unib?
One.
What would you say, Uwais? Look at the ayah. Look at the verse. Read it. Both of them say one. Can we say both or just one? Nice. In the ayah, and those who make haram what Allah made halal, or make halal what Allah made haram without any dalil from Kitab and Sunnah, and they legislated this matter for the people. Allah didn't legislate it. He did not have permission. He didn't give them permission to do it. And they set upon Allah without any knowledge. Is it one or two? One, two, or both? Well, some people said one, some people said two, and then some of them say we can include both. What do you guys say? Again. What do you say, Sadiq? You said both? Good. What do you say again? You said one, two. You said one? Kelly? Oh, what falls under is one category, you mean, which is the second. The second. Good. Excellent. We can say here, we can say both. if you look at it, it says, do they have partners that have legislated? That first part could be for what? First category. The second, so all the answers technically are what? Correct. All of you. Nobody made a mistake. So in that instance, do they have partners that have legislated? That's something evil that has happened within its existence that Allah allowed to happen. But Allah and the religion did not give any what? Permission for it. So the legislation also was what? Mentioned in the verse of what Allah prohibited. So Allah gathered between both categories in the verse. He allowed it to happen, but religiously, He forbade it. Don't do it. You should not have done that. But if it happened by His what? Permission, out of wisdom. Allah knows, and we do not know. He still allowed it to happen for a reason. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still allowed it to happen for reasons. To this very moment, we see people legislating affairs that goes against Allah's religion or goes against His legislation that He sent no permission down. To the end. Let's go. Let's keep going. Let's keep going, everyone. Next ayah was Surah Al-Ahzab. O Prophet, indeed we sent you as a witness, a giver of glad tidings, and a warner, and calling to Allah by His permission. And calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by His permission. Powder on the ayah. Keep in mind all the keys that we've been mentioning for the past couple of weeks. What do you notice in the ayah, everyone? Is it something that Allah hates? Or is it something that Allah loves? Or is it everything here that Allah loves? Or is it a mixture between both? Focus on the ayah. O Prophet, we sent you as a shahid, as a witness, as a giver of glad tidings, a warner, and calling to Allah by His permission. And we know the end of the ayah says Sirajan Munira, as a bright lantern to enlighten the people by. طيب. Those verses here in this context, what do you find? Can we say both? Keep in mind the first category is also included in that good. So also keep that in mind. What do we say here? Can we say both? Or could we say one? What do you say, Khalil?
I'm saying both.
He said both. What do you say, Unib? Both or one?
Both.
He said both. What do you say, Uwais? Says the second. Meaning everything that Allah loves. What do you say, Abdur-Shahid? He said, لا تدري. Good. من قال لا أدري فقد أفتى. صديق or Sadiq. Huh? It's a second. Indeed, we sent you. We sent you as a witness, a giver of glad tidings, and a warner, and a caller to Allah by His permission. Keep in mind the first category does contain what is also what? Good that Allah allows to happen. And then the second is everything that Allah what? Loves. So what can we say? Is it both or not? Good. It's both. You say both. اجتمع في هذه الآية إذن الله الكوني والديني. We gathered in this ayah is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He allowed to happen of good and what He legislated, which is sending the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the religion as a witness. As a witness, good. Testimony for the message of Allah, of Him being a Rasul, بالرسالة. وشهادة من الله أن الله أرسله. Also testimony from Allah that Allah what? Sent Him. And He was a witness over this ummah. He's a witness over this ummah. As every witness, of course, every prophet will testify against it, meaning the prophet in that time when he was sent to those people. He would be a testify over this ummah. He give her glad tidings to the believers, of course, for paradise. And for the ummah at the time he was sent to, that would be a warner for them of the hellfire due to their disbelief. Calling to Allah, meaning calling those who disbelieved to Islam, and at the same time calling the sinners of those who fell into disobedience or great disobedience to return back to the obedience of Allah in performing proper repentance. All those affairs Allah loves. All of them are affairs that Allah loves. Calling the kuffar to Islam, something that what? Allah loves. Calling the sinners to return and make tawbah is also something what? Allah loves. By His permission. So, here in this instance, permission, meaning in the affairs of what Allah allowed to happen and in His religion, what Allah commanded and legislated. So, idhin here also means shar'i or dini. It can mean both. It can mean both. فَالرَّسُولُ جَاءَ بِإِذْنٍ مِنَ اللَّهِ, meaning the message of Allah came by the permission of Allah and by the legislation from Allah which He sent down upon Him. So in this instance, of course, it can mean shar'i and the message of Allah being sent with that good, also what is in it of it being kawni, which is good. Keep in mind, a lot of some certain people forget, good taking place, if it happens, good happening, is also the first category. It's also the first. For example, Abu Bakr Siddiq. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he came and believed in the message of Allah. He believed in the message of Allah, sallallahu, and he was the best of those who carried out what? The religion. So we could say Iman Abu Bakr Siddiq, the faith of Abu Bakr Siddiq, the faith. It gathered within him what? The first category, because it happened. He believed. So it took place of something that what? Allah loved. It happened. And at the same time, what was legislated for him to believe and carry out that affair, he complied with that command also. So what gathered in Abu Bakr Siddiq, the faith of Abu Bakr Siddiq? Which category? Or both? Which one? Both. اجتمع فيه يعني إيمان أبي بكر الصديق. إيمان أبي بكر الصديق. I was going to throw something in there, but I'm going to leave it. Iman Abu Bakr Siddiq. It gathered within him the first what category and the second. Like the kufr of Iblis. The disbelief of Iblis. Which category? First or second? What's happened for Iblis is the first. Without the what? Second. You understand? I'm going to throw a curveball in there now. The faith of Iblis. Iman Iblis. Ponder. First and second. Iman of Iblis. I'll give you a key. I'll give you a hint. Did it happen? Or you could say the Iman of Abu Jahl. Did it happen? Iman of Abu Jahl. The Iman of Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl. Or Abu Lahab. Both. You use both. Abu Jahl or Abu Lahab. The Iman. I didn't say kufr. Iman. Keyword. Did it happen? No. So which category is it? Is it both, or we just say it's the second? This is a keyword. Now that I threw you a curveball. Alhamdulillah. Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad Jami rahimahullah. He was giving these examples in the Aqidat al-Wasitiyah. He was explaining it. He was giving it to the students to throw them off. He said these type of examples, of course, it did not happen. However, what gathered him, of course, the first category is out. But if he would have believed, if low hasal, it would have been the second. If it would have happened, if he would have believed, it would have just been alone the second. But it never happened. So you can't even use the word kilni here because it never did. It never what? It never happened. It never happened. Iman. But if you said kufr, you can say kilni. Now if you said kufr, that's easy. That's a no-brainer. They say kufr Abi Jahl. That would be what? First category. Without the what? Second. You understand? You get it? So keep in mind the words they use. I didn't say kufr Abi Jahl. If you said kufr Abu Jahl, that's a no-brainer. That's what? Which category? Which one? First, without the second. Good. Well, I flipped it. I threw it exactly. I said the iman of Abu Jahl. That's where it threw everybody off. Did it happen? Never happened. It would have gathered with him the second if it would have happened. But it didn't. So be attentive of the what? The words. You understand? So Iman Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. The faith of Abu Bakr, what gathered within him was the what? First and exactly. Iman of Umar al-Khattab. Huh? First and both. It happened, the Iman happened, and it what? And it was something Allah loved. And it happened. You get it? It happened. Similar to that, you'll find the message of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it happened. He's the final prophet. It was sent. It happened. And at the same time, what was legislated by the permission of Allah also is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what? Loved. So gathered, of course, within the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, both affairs. The affair of what happened of him being a prophet, a warner, giver glad tidings, a warner, calling the people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all the affairs that Allah loves. So no doubt that's also included in it, which is what? Which is what? The second. ليش تترددون؟ أرى بعض وجوهكم تترددوا ولا تترددوا. أعطيني جوابا جازما ليس جوابا مترددا شاكا مرتابا. أعطيني جوابا جازما وأظهر ذلك في وجهك. هذا الجزم وهذا الحزم أظهرهما في وجهك ولا أريد أن أرى في وجهك شيئا من التردد والشك. I don't want to see that in your face. Give me a straight, sure answer. First, you understand? Good. Let's keep going, everyone. طيب, next ayah, Surah Al-Hashr. وما قطعتم من لينة أو تركتموها قائمة على أصولها فبإذن الله. So the word إذن was used. طيب, well, you did not cut down anything of a date palm, or you left it standing upon its roots, except by the permission of Allah. So this is in Surah Al-Hashr, using the word, what everyone? What was used in this ayah? The word what? Idhin. Idhin. It's at the last part of the ayah. Surah Al-Hashr, ayah number Hamzah. Number 5, Surah Al-Hashr. You see it, everyone? No. You did not cut down anything of a nakhla. Lina, here, everyone. Lina means nakhl, a date palm. Nakhla. Or that you left it standing upon its roots, except by the permission of Allah. So in that instance, you'll find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during the ghazwa of the Jews from the tribe Bani Nadir. And as we know, there were three tribes that tried to attack the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's three tribes. Who are they? Quickly. You had Banu Qaynuqa', Banu Nadir, and Banu Qurayza. They were three. There's three tribes that gathered against the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Al-Madinah. The first tribe was named, no particular order, Banu Qurayza. Qurayza with a qaf. Qurayza. Banu Qurayza. Banu An-Nadir. Banu An-Nadir. And Banu Qaynuqa'. Qaynuqa'. With an ayn then. Qaynuqa'. Those three tribes were tribes of what? Yahud. The tribe of Nadir, Banu Nadir, went against a treaty. So the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he set out that expedition against them because they tried to assassinate him. Yes, they did. They gathered upon trying to assassinate the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they also were treacherous in a treaty. They went against it and gathered with the Ahzab. They gathered with or against the message of Allah. Also, as usual, the Jews always joins with the enemies of Islam, the greatest of them, who are the mushrikun, the kuffar. Same thing of today. Behind closed doors, coming together with them in order to carry out their sinister plots. But at any rate, that instance, you'll find the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when they were carrying out their plot, the message of Allah besieged them. And what happened in that story, everyone, he had to cut down some of the date palm trees within the battle. Had to cut it down for a certain reason. I can't explain it right now because I don't want to get too far off the topic. But at any rate, some of the trees within Surah Al-Hashr, the tafsir of it is that the Messenger of Allah had to cut some of it down during that time of war with the Jews who are from the tribe of Banu An-Nadir. Banu An-Nadir. So in that instance, when it happened, of cutting the trees down, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, you did not cut it down of the date palms and other than that, or left it upon its roots, except by the permission of Allah. Meaning, what Allah had allowed to happen and legislated. What He legislated. Is two included in this? Or is one? Or both? Which one? Which one? First? Second?
I say one.
You said one. What do you say, Unib? You said both. Siddiq? Or Sadiq? Which one? Which one? First, second? Both? Maybe first, maybe second? Maybe both at the same time? I'll throw you off. Huh? Uthbutu ya, or Uthbut ya Uhud. Huh? Which one? You have not chopped down anything of a date palm. Or left it standing upon its roots. Huh? Except by the permission of Allah. And to instill that fear, of course, within the Yahud. Something Allah love. We could say first, which one, Unib? What do you say? You said what again? You said both. What do you say, Abdur-Shahid? It says the first. He said both. Ahsantum. Good. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed to happen of cutting it down. Of cutting it down, it happened within the creation. it's still something that Allah, of course, happened of good because it was pertaining to war. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also legislated that he do that. That it be carried out legislatively, meaning in the religion. That he legislated. In order as a form of punishment or to instill fear within the tribe of the Jews who set out against the message of Allah and the companions. So by the shara' of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it happened. And by his permission within this existence. Absolutely. Absolutely. Both. Let's keep going. Next ayah. Let's keep going, everyone. وَأَمَا الْقَضَاءُ فَقَالَ فِي الْكَوْنِ فَقَضَاهُنَّ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ فِي يَوْمَيْنِ. I think this is clear. So now we finished the word or the usage of the word idhin. Now we're moving on to the word al-qada'. Al-qada'. Al-qada' فَقَالَ فِي الْكَوْنِ. So now you have al-qada', whatever you want. Al-kawni, and you have al-qada'. Al-qada' al-kawni al-qadri, and you have al-qada' al-shar'i, al-dini. You said qada' kawni and qada' qadri. They're the same. Qada' kawni qadri. That's the same. The second is dini shar'i. Dini shar'i. So let's keep going. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, فَقَضَاهُنَّ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ فِي يَوْمَيْنِ. That he subhanahu wa ta'ala had determined of the heavens, that is what? 7. And that they be created within 2 days. That is in affairs of what? Al-qada' kawni qadri or qada' shar'i dini. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had determined, destined that the heavens, that they're 7, and that they be created within 2 days. And that's which category? I think that's clear. It's clear. That's kawni. It's kawni. Good. So that's not here shar'i. طيب, what about al-qada' ad-dini? That's clear. Let's move on to the next. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَنْ لَا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. Surah Al-Isra, ayah 23. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Isra that your Lord has proclaimed and determined, I think this is clear now, and destined, well not destined here, excuse me. He has proclaimed, that you do not worship except Him. He has proclaimed. That's in which category here, everyone? Which one? First or second? Second. Ahsant. Good. That's second. That's only second here. وَلَيْسَ الْمُرَادْ بِهِ قَدَّرَ ذَلِكَ. Shaykh al-Islam even corrected my slip up. So let's keep going. He says, الْأَمْرُ وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَنْ لَا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. So Allah used the word what? قَضَى. قَضَى رَبُّكَ. You see it? وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَنْ لَا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. طيب, the word qada here, what is not intended, this is Shaykh al-Islam, you mentioned it. Look at the book. وَلَيْسَ الْمُرَادْ بِهِ قَدَّرَ ذَلِكَ فَإِنَّهُ قَدْ عُبِدَ غَيْرُهُ كما أخبر في غير موضع كقوله تعالى ويعبدون من دون الله ما لا يضرهم ولا ينفعهم ويقولون هؤلاء شفعاؤنا عند الله. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, what does he say? What is not intended here is that Allah destined that. You see it, everyone? No. Because indeed what happened is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was worshipped other than Him in this existence. Just as He informed in other places in His book, such as that they worship besides Allah or what does not harm them nor benefit them. And they say that these are intercessors with Allah. Let's keep going. وقول الخليل عليه الصلاة والسلام لقومه قال أفرأيتم ما كنتم تعبدون أنتم وآباؤكم الأقدمون فإنهم عدو لي إلا رب العالمين في سورة الشعراء. Let's keep going. قد كانت لكم أسوة حسنة في إبراهيم والذين معه إذ قالوا لقومهم إنا براء منكم ومما تعبدون من دون الله كفرنا بكم وبدا بيننا وبينكم العداوة والبغضاء أبدا حتى تؤمنوا بالله وحده إلا قول إبراهيم لأبيه لأستغفرن لك وما أملك لك من الله من شيء. طيب, let's keep going. So, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, he's giving you a distinction here. He says, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَنْ لَا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّهِ. Your Lord has proclaimed, that's in the affairs of what? Religion. Then he says, there's other ayat that Allah allowed to happen something of evil. By His permission, excuse me, I'm sorry everyone, here's qada. By His qada, by what He judged, mean predetermined or destined. Because we know qada, the word qada can also mean what everyone? Qadr. It's connected with the qadr. So it says, كَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. They worship besides Allah. What does not harm them, no benefit, nor benefit them. Like, which category is this? That's clear. This is clear. What's category? It's Surah Yunus, not Surah Al-Isra. You guys are not. Are you reading this? Is this the next line? The Shu'ara. No. I'm on to Surah Yunus. You see it? You see it? What happened?
I think the translation is abridged.
They abridged it? Or they removed it? They took it out? So
that one's another one.
no. The وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. Also the ayah where it says قال الخليل. That al-Khalil, Ibrahim, he said to his people, do you not see what?
We have the Ibrahim one.
Mean it in that copy? Yeah, let me see it. Show me where Surah Al-Isra is. Where is it at? There it is right there. وَقَضَاهُنْ سَبْعَ سَمَوَاتٍ وَإِذَا قَضَى أَمْرُنَا فَإِنَّمَا يَقُولُ No. This is it right here. Why did they? This is a mistake. This must be a mistake. I'm sorry. No, you're fine. Surah Al-Isra. It's Surah Yunus. This is a mistake here. Yeah, whatever. This is a typo in your books. They must have removed it. Yeah, and they also put qada here for the ayah and Surah Al-Baqarah here. I don't know why they did that. Yeah, they switched it. This is a typo. I don't know why they did that. They moved it in your book. Right, it is a typo. For some odd reason, they removed the verse. That's the reason why these translated books, you go through them, you'll find that there's typos. Right, but at any rate, what it should say is Surah Yunus, ayat number 18. But you don't have to use that. We can use the ayat which is a surah. See at the bottom of the page on 292 for those who have this copy. Just instead of Surah Shu'ara, put matter of fact, Surah Yunus. No, it is Surah Shu'ara. This is right. For some odd reason, they removed Surah Yunus out of it. I don't know why they did that. So we could just skip it. No problem. We'll just skip it and just use the ayah Surah Shu'ara. I don't know why they did that. I have no idea. They just took it out. Oh, they put it in the next page. Why did they do that? That kind of threw the order off. But why did they do that? Why did they put that there?
Flip flop. Yeah,
But why did they do
I
that?
noticed.
Why did they do that? So they put it on the next page. But why did they do that? The thing is, why did they arrange it like that? That's confusing. But anyway, don't worry. We do it like this. Look in your books. All right. So let's just read Surah Shu'ara right now. All right. Surah Shu'ara, Surah of the poets. All right. It says Qal Khalil, or statement of Khalil, meaning Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. You see it? You see it, everyone?
No.
All right. He says, alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Khalil said, قال أفرأيتم ما كنتم تعبدون. Do you not see or what you used to worship, or what you worship, excuse me. You and your fathers of old. You see it? Verily, they are an enemy to me. فَإِنَّهُمْ عَدُوٌّ لِي إِلَّا رَبَّ الْعَالَمِينَ. They are all enemies to me except رَبَّ الْعَالَمِينَ. You see it? طيب. What he's trying to show here, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah is using this as a dalil. For what? What happened? What happened here of evil? That Allah allowed that to happen was something that's pertaining to his qada wa kawni, qadri. Because here is something what? Evil. However, what he's trying to give you here is some distinction. He's just giving clarification here. Because the word qada wasn't used here. He's just giving you somewhat clarification, that's all. Because the word qada wasn't used. If you look in the ayah, it's not used. He's just saying here, go back to the previous page. If you look at Surah Al-Isra, the word qada rabbuka, that he has proclaimed that you do not worship except what? Except him. That's clear. That's shar'i. That's qada wa shar'i dini, right? It's qada shar'i dini. All right. So Shaykh al-Islam is just bringing some extra clarification here. He's just saying, if you look at Surah Ash-Shu'ara, because he took the Surah Ash-Shu'ara, he's just saying, Khalil here is saying that some evil did happen. That Allah allowed to happen. And it's not like the affair of what's pertaining to the first, where he has proclaimed that don't worship except him. But what happened in this existence of evil is that there was worship along with him other than him. And that's evil. That's all. He's just giving clarification here. That's all. That's it. So let's keep going. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, وَقَالَ تَعَالَى قَدْ كَانَتْ لَكُمْ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ فِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ. This is just extra clarification here. So don't make the focus on the word qada here. Alright? So the word qada, he's just giving you extra clarification. It has nothing to do with the usage of the word qada. But the application is there now, of course. The application. He said, وَقَدْ كَانَتْ لَكُمْ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ فِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Indeed, there was a good example in Ibrahim, and those who are with him. Hence, they said to their people, verily we're free from you, and which you worship besides Allah, that we disbelieve in you, and has appeared between us and you enmity. Enmity and hatred forever, until you believe in Allah alone. To the end of the ayah. He's just mentioning here that what happened in this existence is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was worshipped along with him other deities, or other deities. Deities, which ones is it, everyone? As far as I know, I think in Britain they say deity. Here in America they say deity. As far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right. But in that instance, as we mentioned, these are the matters pertaining to what? What is in the context of just proving that there has happened, even though Allah proclaimed in the religion affairs that are good. This is what he wanted you to do. But by his permission in the first category, when the people fell in the wrong choices, when they picked what was evil, that still happened by what? Allah's permission. Of evil, which is associating partners with Allah. So that affair did happen by his what? By his proclaim. No doubt. So let's keep going. قل أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون. This is just clarification also. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. وهذه كلمة تقتضي براءته من دينهم ولا تقتضي رضاه بذلك كما قال تعالى في الآية الأخرى وإن كذبوك فقل لي عملي ولكم عملكم أنتم بريئون مما أعمل وأنا بريء مما تعملون. He's just saying here that even though Allah commanded within the religion that he be singled out in his worship, but still the first category went forth. And what is still happened by Allah is what? Proclaiming his destiny. So Shaykh al-Islam is giving you clarity. Just because what Allah commanded in a religion does not mean that it's going to what happen as far as in this existence. Does not mean that. Because people make good decisions and they make bad decisions what? All the time. Once the human being makes a bad decision, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leaves them for that affair. He leaves them to be entrusted to it. And in certain instances, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase them in that evil. Where their heart will what? Be switched until their heart will love it. And in other instances, Allah might send the devils upon them. So all those affairs are still connected with what Allah allows. But if a person makes a bad decision and Allah increases them in that, either, like we said, either entrusting them to it and at the same time being entrusted to it where their heart even starts to love it. Because Allah can switch the heart. Where he detests, what a human being loves affairs that Allah loves, but then it can be what? It can be switched. The heart now can be absorbing what agrees with its desires. It becomes switched. And then affairs of what they used to believe to be evil, now they believe it to be good. You understand, everyone? We gave the example of that, the khutbah Friday, right? The khutbah of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ saying that the heart can, Allah can switch it until what will be absorbed within the heart except that agrees with its desires. Hadith تعرض الفتن على القلوب كعرض الحصير عودا عودا فأي قلب أنكرها أشرب فيه فأي قلب أشربها نكت فيه نكتة سوداء وأي قلب أنكرها نكت فيه نكتة بيضاء حتى تصير على قلبين أبيض مثل الصفا فلا تضره فتنة ما دامت السماوات والأرض والآخر مربادا كالكوز مجخيا لا يعرف معروفا ولا ينكر منكرا إلا ما أشرب من هواه. Said the heart, of course, listen, this hadith here shows good decisions, what it brings. When a person fights for their desires, it says in the hadith, فَأَيُّ قَلْبٍ أُشْرِبَهَا نُكِتَ فِيهِ نُكْتَةً سَوْدَاء. Any heart that agrees with it and they love that whatever now affair happens that agrees with their desires, they embark upon it. It will be put on their heart a black dot. And any heart that rejects it, they're fighting it. Then it'll be put on their heart a white dot. Until there be the heart like two, one of the two. One is Abiyad, مثل الصفا, مثل الحجر الأملس. The heart which it will be pure. It will be smooth like a rock. Meaning, fitna comes and just what? Rolls right off. And it will remain like that as long as the heavens and the earth exists. And the other is murbad, kalkuz, mujakhiyan. Meaning, it becomes reversed, upside, where it just holds whatever is put inside of it. Instead of it rolling off, then it becomes what? Like something that holds it. Like a container almost. Until the point, لا يعرف معروفا. It does not command any good. Nor does it forbid any what? Nor does he will forbid what? Any evil anymore. That's to let you know how affairs can be what? Switched upon the servant. That the heart, once it becomes corrupt and Allah misguides it, everything that you used to deem to be good one day, now you find it accepted. And one day you used to reject it so much, now to the day, oh, that goes now. Yesterday, I used to be like that. Today, now I'm finding it to be what? Acceptable. And how many people do we see like this today? A lot. And similar to what you used to forbid and speak out against, now you don't say anything anymore. Quiet. You understand? You used to defend the ulama. Where's the defense now? You understand? So all of the affairs you have to what? Examine. You have to examine it. So the point of the matter is that you'll find that the heart, like we mentioned, everyone, those type of matters, as we said, if you scrutinize it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, based upon bad decisions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will entrust you to it. Or Allah might mislead the heart. Wal-iyadu billah, may Allah protect us and you from misguidance and our hearts being misguided. Protect us from being left to ourselves. So in that instance, you'll find that Allah might either leave you to it, entrust you to it, or misguide the heart, or send the Shaytân upon you, or all of it simultaneously. You understand? And all those, and may Allah protect us from the misguidance of the devils also. So all of those affairs, like we said, that happens, first category. But he prohibited as far as where? Second category. Meaning, all human beings make proper decisions what's accordance to what? The religion. And that you have the free choice to choose. And like we said, generally, the second category, always contemplate. When you hear second category of the religion, always remember, keep this memorized. It means that Allah is giving you the choice. You understand? When you hear the word command, obedience, forbidden, forbade, do such and such, don't do such and such. But at the end of the day, Allah is as if Allah is still saying, like, even though He gave you the guidelines, but it all goes back to you, to what? The choice you make, O human being. Nobody's forcing you. But this is the proper guidelines of the religion. But at the end of the day, you still what? You have the choice. Based upon the fact that you're not going to be rewarded or punishment except based upon what? Either good choices you made or what? Exactly. So that's the reason why generally there's a hellfire and there's a paradise. Because they're based upon choices. Because it doesn't make sense that you didn't have the choice and you're being what? Either given, and the opposite too. You're in paradise for it too. That doesn't make any sense. You're in paradise enjoying bliss eternally for decisions you didn't even make. It doesn't make any sense. You understand? And those general affairs that we're mentioning, that point we just made, everyone. That point is a refutation against the Qadariyah, if you understand it. Especially the Jabriyah. If you understood that one point that we just said, this one point, you ain't even have to refute, you even have to memorize all the other refutations you can use against the Jabriyah. If you just understand that one point, you can destroy their doubts. That one point. All you have to do, someone that's upon the methodology of the Jabriyah, they say, oh, you're forced. All you have to do is say, then why did Allah make the qada? Why did He make the qada in the religion then? If I'm forced. It doesn't make any sense. So that means that shouldn't even be a category. You get it? You understand where I'm going with it? If there's no Shara'i religion, why was the fact that we've been commanded if we're forced? If we've been given guidelines of affairs pertaining to carrying out obedience, staying away from all these affairs, it doesn't make any sense if I'm forced. It's just like saying this. It doesn't make sense to have guidelines on affairs if you had no choice in them. It doesn't make any sense. Right now, you have a job. They say this is the rules, regulations here. If somebody comes and puts a gun to your head and makes you do it, there's no point in having the rules and regulations in the first place. You understand what I'm saying, everyone? Because every day you're being forced to do it anyway. So that's the reason why it's just as saying to them, that doesn't make absolute any sense. Due to the fact that all the affairs of the religion of Allah ultimately goes back to what? To a choice you make as a human being. Do you get it, Munib, or you don't get it? You sure? Is it clear or not? Good. So if you understand at one point, you can now refute those who deviate in the qadr, and from them are the what? The Jibriyah. Get it? Good. Let's keep going. How long are we talking? Oh, we gotta stop. No. We're about to stop. Because we get to the end of the book, I'm trying to finish the book. Because we don't have that many pages left. It's not that many pages left in the book. This is all I have. Unless y'all have more. Huh? Oh, that's a little bit. In that book, in that copy, it's a little bit. That one's a little bit more thicker. It's not that many pages left. So I'm trying to get to the bottom so we can finish the book, because we don't have that many pages left in the book, alhamdulillah. So let's keep going, and then we'll stop. About to read, and then we'll stop. So you understand these affairs, everyone? So those are the matters of why, if you study these categories and realize them and understand them thoroughly and perfect this understanding, you'll be able to refute a lot of nonsense that's out there here in this world. A lot of nonsense. A lot of nonsense. And you'll understand why it's taking place. Just the mere fact of what we just said in 15 minutes, those affairs to let you know of why certain affairs are happening in this world. People are being tested based upon bad decisions they made. And Allah did not aid them with it. Rather, He left them for it. Left them to it. You chose something evil. You decided to do something. And how many times out there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spared us? There's a lot of times where we did something dumb and Allah spared us. A lot of us. In a lot of predicaments. And Allah had His mercy on us. And He could have easily took our soul while we were doing something we should not have been doing. You understand? Those instances, like we said, are all based upon His mercy, of course, and in addition to the bad decisions that human beings make. And when they do that, they're left to themselves. Or, like we've said, their heart becomes black, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends the devils upon them and pairs them up together. Is it clear, everyone? Pairs them together, couples them. Is that ayah? What's it say? وَمَا يَعْشُ عَنْ ذِكْرِ الرَّحْمَنِ نُقَيِّضْ لَهُ شَيْطَانًا فَهُوَ لَهُ قَرِينٌ وَإِنَّهُمْ لَيَصُدُّونَهُمْ عَنِ السَّبِيلِ وَيَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. It's the ayah. What's that? It's Surah Zukhruf, I think, right? Surah Zukhruf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this book, whoever is void of their life, of the dhikr of Allah, listen to what Allah says. We will couple him and pair him up with a shaitan. يُقَيِّضْ لَهُ شَيْطَانًا فَهُوَ لَهُ قَرِينٌ. And he will be his qareen. They will be close together, linked together. They'll be paired up together. Now listen to this. And verily the devils are taking them away from the straight path. Now listen to this part. And they really think that they're doing something good and they're properly guided. So they're putting deceit in their mind that what I'm doing of evil is what? Justifiable. Is it clear? All that is based upon what? Improper decisions that human beings make. And either, like we said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left them makhdhul, left them to themselves, left them and abandoning and aiding them, left them to be misguided and going deeper in that affair until they really think that they're doing something what? Good. And it's not the case. Well, iyadhu billah, may Allah protect all of us from that. Not to test us with that either. So last part, and it will stop. It says, look, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah says, everyone, وَهَذِهِ كَلِمَةٌ تَقْتَضِي براءته عفوا تقتضي براءته من دينهم ولا تقتضي رضاه بذلك. He said these words necessitates Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, he freed himself from their religion. He freed himself from their religion. But it does not mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the same time, even though He allowed it to happen, that He's what? Pleased with it. even though Allah allowed it to happen for a reason. Either because of their improper what? Decision they made. وفي الآية الأخرى, if they have rejected you and belied you, say to them, what belongs to me is my actions, and what belongs to you is your what? Your actions. I am free from what? You are free from what I do, and I am free from what? You do. It says, وَمَنْ ظَنَّ مِنَ الْمَلَاحِدَةِ أَنَّ هَذَا رِضًا مِنْ بِدِينِ الْكُفَّارِ فهو من أكذب الناس وأكفرهم كمن ظن أن قوله تعالى وقضى ربك سورة الإسراء بمعنى قدر. الله أكبر. Look at that. وأن الله سبحانه وتعالى ما قضى بشيء إلا وقع وجعل عباد الأصنام ما عبدوا ما عبدوا إلا الله فإن هذا من أعظم الناس كفرا بالكتب. And this will stop right here. Then it says, now this is what Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah is using this in order to show again how these categories are extremely important. Extremely. He said, whoever thinks that the malahida, meaning the people of disbelief, the people of kufr, the people who disbelieve in all these matters, they reject Allah, they reject the Creator, they reject all these matters, that all these matters happen of evil because he's pleased with it, or pleasure, or it being pleased from him subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he's pleased with these matters. With the religion of the kuffar, then he is from the most akdhab an-nas, greatest liars of the people, and the most disbelieving of them. Then how much more for the person, like the one who thinks that the statement of Allah that your Lord has proclaimed in Surah Al-Isra that you do not worship except him is the first category, not the second. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not proclaim anything except that it happens. And then he made the worshippers of the statues of the idols ma abadu illallah, or ma ubidu illallah, that they made the idols of the statues, that them being worshipped is exactly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being worshipped. Meaning that the idols in actuality, that's Allah. For verily this is from the greatest of those who are what? Disbelievers in the books of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down. What is he saying here? And we'll stop. He's now talking about the people who negate the first category. And they say that the affairs of the religion are what? Are affairs that happen what? In the evil affairs of the first that Allah allows to happen to justify the evil. Who are they, everyone? From them, the people of Tasawwuf. You can put that down. The people of Tasawwuf. That's from the sects. The people of Tasawwuf, which category did they negate again? We mentioned this a month ago. Those who believe that they reached the level of yaqeen in their so-called conviction, in their belief. What category did they leave off? The first or the second? They said we reached the level of yaqeen, we don't have to practice anything anymore. These are the extremists from the people of Tasawwuf, especially their heads. If you understand this point, you'll also be able to determine that what these people are indulges in is absolute satanic. They saying that we have now reached the level of surety. We're free to do what we want. Which category are they rejecting? Which category are they affirming? They rejected the second. They rejected the what? Second, and they made all the affairs solely on the what? First. You get it? Good. See how these categories, we went from refuting who? The Jabriyah. Then we went to another sect of refuting who? The people of Tasawwuf. And there's others that's included in this. There's other sects included in those categories. Do you guys know? Does anyone want to give another one? Huh? Jahmiyyah can be included in that. Absolutely. The Jabriyah, that's clear. Can't we put the Qadariyah in there? Unib? Can the Qadariyah fall Those two categories. The Jabariyah has removed the what? Which category? Which one? The first or the second? Which one? The Jabariyah. Which one? Second. And they relied on what? The first. The Qadariyah is the opposite. Just reverse it. So the Qadariyah believe that everything is in the choice of the what? In the choice of the slave. The slave has total what? Control. It's total will. That our choices is absolute, the dominant factor in everything. Huh? Which one? What did they do? Which one did they negate? Which one did they went to the extreme of affirming? Which one? They affirmed the what?
They affirmed the second one and negated the first.
Exactly. That's it. The Qadari is the opposite side of the spectrum. They negated the what? The first. If you want to say we can do this order. They went in the extreme of affirming the second category and then negated the what? The first. They fully believe that Allah has no what? Control over the existence and the choices they made. We fully are in control. We create our own what? Actions. We're in full control. Allah has no will over it. So that's extremism or excessive in where? Second. Without the what? Without the what? The first. Is that correct also? No. You understand, everyone? So you see how these categories is extremely important. Abdul Shahid, just to add on to him what he said, not the Jahmiyyah, the Mu'tazila also fall under that. The Mu'tazila. I mentioned this. Remember the Mu'tazila? Person would say, we mentioned about the Mu'tazila. This is where we'll end it off. The Mu'tazila believe the same thing. Rather, the Mu'tazila believe the affair of evil. Allah does not what? Will it. Allah doesn't create it. Allah doesn't will it. So they fell in deviation in these categories again. The Mu'tazila. The Mu'tazila. The Mu'tazila believe that only good happens by the what? Will of Allah. That's it. We don't ascribe evil to Allah. Our minds cannot fathom that Allah allows evil to happen. Which category did they deviate in? The second or the first? Or first or the second? Which one? The first. Because we said that the first category, the good happens by Allah, and what? Evil also happens by Allah. By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Both. You understand? You get it or you don't get it? And if that's the case, we go back to the other. We gave this other Abu Ishaq al-Isfirayini. We said it last class, right, everyone? We said Abdur-Jabbar Mu'tazili. I said this about 20 times, 30 times. This other. Matter of fact, we'll mention the whole other, the whole thing, because usually we only mention the first half of it. This is the reason why learning Aqidah is very important, especially the Aqidah al-Isfirayini. But at any rate, you'll find that he said in the other, he said, سبحان الذي تنزه عن الفحشاء. فقال أبو إسحاق سبحان الذي لا يحدث في ملكه إلا ما شاء. فقال عبد الجبار المعتزلي أرأيت إن قضى علي بالردى. أرأيت إن قضى علي بالردى. That's it. أرأيت إن منعني الهدى وقضى علي بالردى أأحسن إلي أم أساء. That's it. فقال إن منعك ما هو حقك فقد أساء وإن منعك ما هو حقه وفضله ففضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء. Cut him. Destroyed him. Done. Anyway, he said in the other, the beginning of it, Abdul Jabbar, he said, Subhana alladhi tanazzaha an al-fahsha. He said, glory be to the one who's far above, raised above evil. He said a statement of truth. He was a Shaytân. It's a devil. Notice the devil here came with something what? Something of truth, so you can what? Accept it. So when you hear it, you think he's saying what? Something true. But what he's intended by it is what? Something very sinister and evil. So he entered upon Abu Ishaq and said, glory be to the one who's high above evil. So Abu Ishaq al-Isfirayini, he refuted it by saying, glory be to the one that nothing takes place in his kingdom except he wills it. Meaning of good and what? Evil. So he knew what he was intended by it. No, you weren't trying to say that, no, good just only happens by Allah's permission, but not what? But not evil. He's saying, no, all of it happens by Allah's permission, and if evil happens, it was by his wisdom. He's some wisdom he wanted by it that he knows, and we don't know. But all of it happens by his what? His permission. You can't say that Allah created his kingdom, he has full will over it, and then say something happens in it that he didn't will. That's considered what? Imperfection, and it's considered that Allah has some form of what? Discrepancy in himself, subhanahu wa ta'ala, hasha wa kalla. That he has some weakness, deficiency, and some type of deficiency as it pertains to him being a deity and the full dominator of this whole existence. By you saying out of your mouth that something evil happens in his kingdom that he didn't allow to happen. So that's why Abu Ishaq al-Isfirayini was what? Putting him in his place about. No, nothing happens in his kingdom that he created and everyone else is from the creation he created in it, except that affair happened by his what? By his permission. By some wisdom that Allah knows and we do not what? We don't know. Understand so far?
No.
Then he said a satanic statement. Then he came with another satanic statement to follow up with it. So Shaytân here came with one, then he came with another. And I was just listening to, alhamdulillah, last night. I was going over some of the statements of the atheists last night with Sheikh Abdullah al-Ghunayman. I was listening to it. And if I had some more time, we'll go over it to say that how from the satanic statements, is Allah able to create someone similar to him? I wanted to refute that. It's nice refutation. At any rate, let's go back to this one. It's a nice one. At any rate, so it says in the second part. He says, أَرَأَيْتَ مَنْ إِنْ مَنَعَنِي الْهُدَى وَقَضَى عَلَيَّ بِالرَّدَى أَأَحْسَنَ إِلَيَّ أَمْ أَسَاءَ. He said, do you not see? Now listen to this. If Allah prevented me guidance and he preordained for me misguidance, did he do something good to me or something evil? See how Shaytân can be very sinister in his speech. Who's the one that can destroy it? The people of knowledge. So he said to him, this is to the reply. If Allah held back from you what belongs to you, then he's done something evil. Meaning, proper guidance. Who owns it? You or Allah? Who owns it? Proper guidance of the heart, huh? Whose possession is that? Who? Allah. Who put guidance in whose heart? So guidance is ultimately who it belongs to. Exactly. If he hold back something that's yours, is guidance his? No, it isn't. He's done something evil. But if he gave you something that's from his bounty, that he owns, that Allah, the Father of Allah, he gives it to whom he wills. Shut him up. Exactly, you hear it? That's the poetry. It says, مَا عَلَى اللَّهِ حَقٌّ وَاجِبٌ كَلَّا وَلَا سَعْيُ لَدَيْهِ ضَائِعُ فَإِن نُعِمُوا فَبِفَضْلِهِ وَإِن عُذِّبُوا فَبِعَدْلِهِ وَهُوَ الْكَرِيمُ الْوَاسِعُ. Nice poetry. Nice. Say the poetry. Poetry is مَا عَلَى اللَّهِ حَقٌّ وَاجِبٌ كَلَّا وَلَا سَعْيُ لَدَيْهِ ضَائِعُ. It's not upon Allah a haqq wajib. It's not upon Allah a right that's obligatory. Nor would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not upon Allah that somebody makes something obligatory upon him at all. What Allah makes upon himself, that's from what? From him, subhanahu wa ta'ala, what he chooses. Not nobody making anything binding upon him, right? Nor is what the slaves, what they set out to do is wasted. Meaning what they do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant them what? Good for it. If that affair is what? Now listen to what is predicated upon. If they are punished, then it's from his justice. And if they are given eternal bliss and bounty and enjoyment, then it is from his fadl. If they are properly guided, that is from his bounty. There's something extra, not because Allah owes you that. You understand, everyone?
No.
Allah owes you to be guided. No, that's something what extra from Allah. For fadl, فإن عذبوا فبعدله وإن نعموا فبفضله. And if they're given eternal bliss, that's a fadl from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Guidance is a fadl. Eternal bliss in the hereafter is a fadl. Not because Allah owes it to you or owes it to anyone. And He's Kareem al-Wasi'. And He's what? He's Kareem. He's all generous. He's expansive as far as who He gives of His dominion and His will, or what He gives to the people of proper guidance and all those other good bounties that He gives, which are plenty. The point of the matter is, Abu Ishaq al-Isfirayini and other said to him, if Allah holds back something that belongs to you, which is proper guidance and being guided, all those affairs are just a what? Fadl from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not because Allah owes it to you. And all those affairs at the end is what He owns. He owns you, the heart, and properly guided or not, was something extra from Allah. Not because of what? He owes it to you. Due to the fact that from the belief of the Mu'tazila, everyone, from their beliefs is they believe that Allah has to give you such and such. That was from their misguidance of the Mu'tazila. They said from the aql, Allah has to do such and such. He has to guide you. He has to give you guidance. He has to put you in paradise. He owes that to you to the end of it. That's what's from their belief from the Mu'tazila. That Allah does what is most befitting for the servants based upon the fact He owes it to them. If they do something good, Allah owes such and such. And if they do some evil, Allah owes and He has to carry out His punishment. That's all what everyone? All of that's batil. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can overlook whom He wills. He can forgive whom He wills. He can punish whom He wills. He can do whatever He wants subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's kamal, that's perfection. Not the fact that what's considered justice in your mind that Allah has to do such and such for so and so. That's absolute nonsense. Is it clear, everyone? And if human beings, if they understand that, they wouldn't be having so many entitlement issues also. No, you have to do such as. No, you owe me. I think it's deeper. I think they think that Allah owes them something. A lot of people in their mind think Allah owes them something. That's a problem in Aqidah. But at any rate, the point of the matter is that Abu Ishaq al-Isfirayini, when he was refuting them, he said to him, keep in mind the statement he said, أَرَأَيْتَ إِن مَنَعَنِ الْهُدَى. Do you not see if Allah prevented from me guidance? What was he talking about? Guidance of what? The heart. وَقَضَى عَلَيَّ بِالرَّدَى. And then He predetermined for me misguidance. Did He do something good or something evil? He said, if He held back from you with something that owns to you, then He's done something evil. He's using this as a hujjah to say at the end of the day, guidance, you don't own it. You understand?
No.
But if He gives you what is His and His bounty, then what? Allah's bounty, He gives it to whom He wills. Destroy them. Get it? And then this is the reason why, and I probably repeated this author maybe 40 times. Still to this point, people are still like, Good. Keep your brain working. Any questions about the lesson, anyone? We'll stop here. So these are the reason why focusing on Aqidah is extremely important these days, due to the fact that if you understand these affairs, you will be able to navigate through these very dark waves of fitna that we live these days. That rhymed. You understand, everyone? You'll be able to navigate through what? The dark waves of the fitna we live these days. You understand?
No.
Good. Fadl.
So also the statement that perhaps something that seems bad for you is good in it.
I said, of course, it's an ayah.
No.
وعسى أن تحبوا شيئا فهو شر لكم فعسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم والله يعلم وأنتم لا تعلمون. That's an ayah. He said, for perhaps you love a thing, it is what? Evil for you. And perhaps you hate a thing, and it is what? Good for you. Allah knows and you do not know. Absolutely. No shak. Anything else? Fadl. Fadl.
The line of poetry.
What was the
It's like
ما على الله حق واجب كلا ولا سعي لديه ضائع فإن عذبوا فبعدله وإن نعموا فبفضله وهو الكريم الواسع. That poetry extracted from numerous books of the ulama. There's a lot of them. From them, Sheikh Salih Fawzan, he quote that poetry a lot, especially in his explanation Kitab al-Tawheed called I'anatul Mustafid. It's in there. Also, a lot of books from the books of Tawheed, from Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, reference that poetry. Used to hear Sheikh Muhammad Aman Jami, rahimahullah, they also used to quote that poetry all the time, which is a beautiful poetry to let you know that there's no haqq wajib upon Allah. There's no haqq, there's no obligatory right upon Allah to do anything. The only people that believe that, again, was who, everyone? The Mu'tazila. The Mu'tazila believe that it's obligatory upon Allah to do such and such. You understand? And that was the reason why Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari left the Mu'tazila, because of that ambiguity right there. That was one of the reasons. He heard that, he was like, haqqun wajib. من الذي يلزم الله يفعل الأصح فالأصلح بالعباد. He even said that. He said, when he heard Ali Jubba'i say statement out of his mouth, he said, it's obligatory upon Allah. He heard in his mind, it's obligatory upon Allah to do such and such and such and such. He was like, who's the one that binds upon Allah to do anything? And then upon that, he left the Mu'tazila. Then he went to the next step, which is the Kullabiyya, Muhammad ibn Kullab. But anyway, any other questions about the lesson? Al-Qisas, not al-Iqtisas. Al-Qisas, the prescribed punishment, is adl, is adlun. Wal-Ihsan fadlun. Al-Qisasu adlun wal-Ihsan fadlun. So the Qisas, prescribed punishment due to crimes, is what? Justice. But pardoning and overlooking is fadl. Ihsan here means afu. Ihsan here means afu. Overlooking and pardoning. The forgiving is extra. It's an extra boundary, meaning something higher, a level of iman. But notice Allah mentioned that. Okay, it's like almost giving you the choice, oh human being, what you doing as far as trying to now establish I'll see you later, inshallah. But absolute justice is beautiful. No problem with that. But if you want to take a level, Allah is giving you another test here. Even though you can carry out the justice and you're not going to be punishable for that, you're not going to be held in any type of way of evil for doing that. Absolutely. But Allah now is giving you another test. Now, if you want to be higher in Iman, then you will pardon and overlook. Even though, and this is something I want to mention, Shaykh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, in certain explanations, he said in certain instances, there's certain instances, that's an exception to the rule, that to carry out the punishment in certain instances, if it carries out a bigger maslahah, then overlooking and pardoning in that instance should not be done. But there's certain exceptions to the rule. But the origin is pardoning and overlooking is something great and extra. There's only few exceptions where punishment be carried out for a greater benefit should be done. And that pardoning and overlooking in certain circumstances should not be done. So keep an eye on our religion is a religion of what? Balance. Even though what is greater is to overlook and pardon in most cases. There's only few exceptions to the rule where it should not be what? It should not be overlooked or pardoned. It should not. So it depends on the maslahah. It depends on the bigger outcome of good. There's certain people you pardon them or overlook, they increase in more corruption and evil. There's certain times they have to learn their lesson. And that lesson, inshallah, that will be a means for them to be better religiously. You understand? For them to improve religiously. So in actuality, that's still a mercy for them. Because at the end of the day, you want their religion to be what? Proper. So being hard on them and stern on them in certain instances is making them a better individual. Whereas now people go along with the program. And in the actuality, you're making your brother worse by you not saying nothing. You understand? You're creating a monster until that monster turns on you. You understand? So in that instance, like we said, all these predicaments is based upon the what? The maslahah of the situation. And as we know, we have kids. Kids, you keep not disciplining your child, you're creating a what? Creating a monster here. But we're not saying go to the extremes, or certain people in their disciplinary measures, they very harsh. Not talking about that. We're talking about doing it correctly, accurately. But the point of the matter is you still what? Correct them. You don't let that go. Because you keep letting it go, what happens is you open the door for them to now get what? Worse and worse, and to the point where you create a what? You create a monster. So in actuality, that's not pardoning and forgiving. You're making more dhulm. You're creating more injustice. And that injustice can carry on to what? Other people that's going to be other people that'll be affected. So not will just be the parent, might be now the brother might get affected, the sisters will get affected, and then they look and they like, any small thing, a big thing, I'm always being disciplined, and he just gets away with all this nonsense. You understand? And that's what's going on today in these days and times. But at any rate, you understand, everyone? So those are the things that we're mentioning here. That's what we're saying. Any other questions about the lesson? Anything about the lesson? طيب, let's suffice with it. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.